Hello and welcome to Revenge of the Drive-In. We are covering the Ipcress file from director Sidney J. Furie, the year 1965, starring the great Sir Michael Caine. And we've got Invaders from Mars from 1953, a 1950s sci-fi classic. I'm your host Patrick, and I am joined here by...
Jim, hello, I just took a hot sip of coffee. How are you, Patrick?
I'm good. What are you sipping coffee for at 7 p.m.?
Oh, I worked a morning shift, so I only got up about an hour ago.
So, Jim, do you have a Michael Caine impression?
No, I don't.
I don't either. How dare you lie to people
you
about me?
Fucker. I vividly remember you had me in tears. And
it wasn't good though. It was just like it was American doing a Cockney. It wasn't good.
Okay, you know what? I thought it
well,
was
the best
good,
part.
I really enjoyed it, and it always
the best
made me
part
laugh.
was we were at the Tower of London, and there was this little write up on Lady Jane Grey, and it concluded with she was only 16 years old. So that was where the tears came from the context, not from the impression. Trust me. At any rate, Ipcress file, kind of the anti-James Bond. You want to get us started?
Yeah, it's funny that it's produced by Harry Saltzman.
Mm-hmm.
Much like the first, 9 Bond movies?
Yeah, because it was Broccoli and Saltzman who produced them, and so Broccoli's not involved. Saltzman is also John Barry doing the music, and Peter R. Hunt was the editor, and I believe he edited, might have been like second unit director for a lot of the early Bond movies, eventually was the director for On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
But this is basically Michael Caine's, like... It's not an audition for Bond, but this is the closest he ever got to playing that role. And I have to imagine when they recast it for Lazenby and when they recast it for Moore, they at least thought about Michael Caine. That's all speculation. I don't know for a fact.
He's not as suave or as polished as Sean Connery.
In some ways, he's more so, though. He's a gourmet.
Yeah,
you know, he's into fine
chef.
cooking and stuff, yeah.
And poetry and literature, and he likes listening to music.
He's got the great fashion sense.
Yeah, and I will say, this is also a very sexy movie. I don't know how you feel. Oh my God.
Put it into context if you want. This is 60s sexiness, but if you ask me, this is as sexy as any, like, Sydney Sweeney, Sharon Stone, whatever decade you want to go, nude scene, when the woman's with him and she's like, do you ever take your glasses off? And he's like, only when I'm in bed. And then she just takes off his glasses. That is the sexiest thing in like movie history. That was so cool.
That's fantastic. But there's this other scene where he notices that somebody's in his apartment, and I forget the woman's name, but she's snooping around. She's kind of sitting in a chair, and when Michael Caine walks up to her, he walks in so that the tops of his shoulders and his head get cut out of frame. All you see is his torso and his crotch, which is almost at her eye level.
Mm-hmm.
And he slowly kind of like unbuttons his jacket, pulls his jacket aside, and then slips his pistol into his crotch. And she's kind of like looking up at him, you know?
Okay, yeah.
And there was just something that was just so sexy and sexual, and the whole thing was just sexually charged.
And again, comparing it to the James Bond movies, which we will. I mean, it's inevitable. This is the same year that Thunderball comes out. It has the sexuality. It has a lot more subtlety to it. Like the James Bond sexuality, those films are overtly sexual. I mean, there's a famous tweet, new James Bond movie. James, you have to overcome your generational trauma in order to pursue the post-colonialist agenda or something. And then it says, old James Bond movie, hello, my name is Rebecca Ass. And there's truth to that, you know? There is truth to that. I mean, this doesn't have the Rebecca Ass type stuff, but it has all the other things.
It also has a spy who's arguably less goofy than James Bond.
Oh, much less goofy. He also hates his job, which is interesting and relatable.
Yeah. For everybody on the planet, yeah.
Of course. Also, before we really get into the Ipcress file, I'm prepared to go ISO and just talk about Michael Caine as a movie star, because I think he's one of the most interesting movie stars ever. I like your perspective on some of these things, of course, too. But he's probably the biggest British movie star in British films. And what I mean by that is like The Italian Job and Get Carter and Zulu and the Ipcress File and its sequels and stuff like that. Those are all British movies. Most British actors who become really big actors, who become movie stars, people like Sean Connery, are largely making American movies.
Yes.
And that's been true since the days of, like, Olivier. Mm-hmm. And so Michael Caine has this, like, uniquely British identity. And then on top of it, this was really America, Canada, hell, a lot of parts of Britain. This was, like, the first exposure to, like, a Cockney. And I'm fascinated by Cockneys. I love how people talk about them like they're a race. For those of you that don't know, Cockney is a type of accent, and sometimes it's used to describe a person from the east of London. That's where the accent comes from.
And they're usually poorer, working class.
Traditionally, that's the history. As Alan Partridge puts it, talking to his Ukrainian girlfriend, Cockney, Sonia, is a place in London where criminals live. That's the famous line. But yeah, so there's like a classism involved. But yeah, like Cockneys were not out there for the rest of the world to see, especially like Britain and its like kind of history of classism and the BBC and everything. They created the RP, received pronunciation accent, which is when we think of a British accent, that's usually the RP. That's an artificial accent that was created by the BBC to be like what Britain projects not only to Britain but to the rest of the world. And Michael Caine, consciously or subconsciously, is like, fuck that, I'm just being myself. And then also, like, he kind of reinvents the Cockney too, because he has like this, he's a Cockney who's like fashionable, he's got these awesome 60s glasses. Women
are drawn to him.
Exactly.
He's a young man. He's attractive.
I just think it's so interesting. He's the Jackie Robinson of Cockneys, you know?
Yeah, okay, yes. I see what you...
He is! Yeah. You think the average person from Indiana had ever heard a Cockney accent before they saw Alfie or something? No.
And I'm sure there were actually lots of people around the world that were confused by his accent. Mm-hmm. But in the same way that, like, do you think they would have been confused by Sean Connery's accent?
It's funny, yes and no, because Connery, you would think so, because the Scottish accent also is not what Britain tries to push towards the outside world, but there was something about Connery's accent where maybe it was just easier to understand or something, as opposed to
he's almost speaking like an RP Scottish accent. You know, it's like everything is over enunciated.
And that's him being Edinburgh as opposed to Glasgow, because the Glaswegian accent is kind of less posh. And I remember reading about when, this was before my time, I was a child when this movie came out, but when Trainspotting was released, some American theaters showed that with subtitles. Because people can't understand this crap. But like that wasn't an issue with Connery, and I don't think it was an issue with Caine. Something about Caine exudes two almost contradictory things. He still exudes that kind of British class of the Olivier Richard Burton, who is Welsh. He kind of exudes that kind of era of British thespian actor, while still being this like Cockney, cool, tough guy kind of thing. And early Michael Caine especially. And when I was a kid, I kind of hated Michael Caine because I'd only seen him in like The Prestige and Goldmember. And I'm like, I don't understand what the guy's saying half the time. I remember I haven't seen The Prestige since I was a kid, but there was a scene with him and Christian Bale, who's doing a really thick accent in that movie, where they're yelling at each other. And I'm like, Jesus, I need subtitles. I had no idea what either of them were saying. So I kind of didn't like Michael Caine until like years later. I saw a lot of his movies from when he was younger, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's awesome. He's obviously a great actor. He's just so cool, though, too. He's like the perfect 60s, early 70s action star, you know, before action movies really take off and kind of become something different. You know, we talked about this with like Dirty Harry, like 70s action is not what modern action is. 80s action kind of is. Like, he's just perfect for that. And he's one of my favorite actors of all time now. I love early British Michael Caine, Zulu, Alfie, The Italian Job, Get Carter, all of that stuff.
It's also interesting, too, because I'm surprised. Because I know that they made a sequel to this movie. Wasn't it called Death?
Two of them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Funeral in Berlin. There was also $1 Billion Brain or something. There's a movie made by Ken Russell, which is not that great. And then they made some like made-for-TV sequels in like the 2000s, which is, as far as I know, are kind of like unofficial. But
yeah, and then there's a 2021 TV series called the Ipcress File, I think.
It's not called like Harry Palmer. You'd think they would name it after the character. Although the character is complicated because the movies created the name for the character. This is a series of novels that written by Len Deighton that were about an anonymous spy told from the first person narration, and they're not even technically a series. It was just kind of like, it's just like, oh well, we assume it's the same guy. And I think there's like one instance of someone refers to him as Harry, and that's kind of where they get the name. I read something by a quote by Dayton. He's like, there's an advantage of writing with an anonymous character, because sometimes I want to change details about him, and then it like doesn't really matter if it's the same character or not. Like I as far as I know, the character probably changed a lot throughout the books because it's not even clear that he's the same character.
Yeah, and it's funny that you'd write a series of books like that, because you'd think you'd want something to draw people back to the books, like a character that they love or something.
I think it's really interesting, though. I'm actually intrigued by these books. I've never read them, but...
Going back to what you said about Michael Caine being the most... Would you say he was the most famous British actor to star in British movies?
I would say the most successful British movie star in British film.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there are bigger names.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could go Cary Grant, Elizabeth Taylor, Sean Connery. Peter O'Toole, maybe even someone like Christian Bale. And Caine as like an actor in American film is almost a different actor, because he's kind of like a character actor. He was a movie star in Britain. And a damn good one is the point I'm making. And he's done some fantastic American movies. He kind of hitched his wagon to Christopher Nolan, and as a result, and not just because of that, because he also did like Harry Brown, which I think he's amazing in. I think he's probably had the best career of any actor who's like over 70, probably. Like he's around 90 now, and I don't know if he's like really 92? Still acting. But he was acting at least a few years ago, and he made some damn good movies even as an elderly man.
Yeah, I do know the last time he showed up to an awards show, he was being wheeled around in a wheelchair. So,
oh really?
I think his acting days are behind him, unfortunately. But also, I would say one of the strangest movies I've seen, and I'm not going to call it one of the worst movies I've seen, because we've seen some real stinkers for this podcast. But it starred Michael Caine and
was it Jaws: The Revenge?
No.
Oh, the Sleuth remake?
Yes, the Sleuth remake.
Okay, I've never seen that, but yeah.
The original one is so
good. By Branagh?
Oh, it might be.
I think it might be.
Because if it is, that's pretty sad. Let me see.
I'm a big Branagh fan, but he's had his stinkers as director. I think when Branagh is good, he's as good as anyone. I think he's...
it is directed.
He's the best adapter of Shakespeare we've ever had, but he's done his share of paycheck movies too.
Yeah, well, and it's a shame. I want to talk about Kenneth Branagh just for a second.
Who I've seen on stage.
Oh, you're so lucky. That's nice.
I saw him in King Lear. He directed it too.
I'm sure that was fantastic. I'm sure it was much better than his first Poirot movie, and I'm sure his second one, and I'm sure the third one whenever it comes out, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I wish he didn't do that stuff. I mean, like, can you just go back to Shakespeare? I guess that stuff does. The Poirot movies have been successful, I think, which is why he keeps doing them.
Well, which is also a shame, because it's like, dude, just stick to the material. I'm such a fan of Poirot, just stick to the material. But also, I heard somebody talk about Gal Gadot the other day.
Oh yeah, she's in Death on the Nile or whatever.
Yeah, and she flubs this line about having so much champagne they can fill up the Nile.
Yeah, that's a meme.
Yeah, and somebody's like, and here's Gal Gadot pretending that she's an actual actress. Yeah, Kenneth Branagh, great guy. He's a great actor, fantastic actor. He's hit some out of the park with his directing roles, but Sleuth.
I mean, his Shakespeare stuff is next level. Like he has the ability to adapt and interpret the material at the same time, which I think that's something that, like, as someone who's worked in literary studies is really impressive. Like, if you watch his Henry V, which I think is one of the best movies ever, you can watch that movie, and the entire time, for the entire movie, it is both that heroic, patriotic reading of the character that and of the play that it usually historically has been, like when Olivier made the movie as a literal British propaganda film during World War II. Mm-hmm. And he also interrogates that idea as well. It's simultaneously. It's incredible.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
We're talking about Kenneth Branagh, who I'm not even sure was born when the Ipcress file came out, so let's get back on track here.
Ipcress file, 1965. It's a very 60s English movie. All the cars are cool. There's lots of coal-powered trains. The movie looks kind of dingy, and it starts out with an amazing hook. There's this doctor, Dr. Radcliffe.
Mm-hmm.
He's being watched by a spy in the War Office, I believe, right? Because there's the War Office and the Home Office. And he's being, he's being watched by a spy in the Home Office. That's who it is.
Okay. Caine switches offices in the movie, but he initially works at the Admiralty buildings, which is so cool seeing that.
Oh, I know. There's this Dr. Radcliffe. He's ushered into a car with this spy from the Home Office. And then he's taken to the train station, and he's kind of briskly moved onto the train, and this spy bids him farewell. And then when the spy gets back to the car, he realizes that Dr. Radcliffe has forgotten his camera. So he grabs it out of the car.
Are you familiar with Radcliffe camera, by the way?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I can't believe I didn't put two and two together until you said it. I was like, oh, of course.
I love the name Radcliffe. It's Geoffrey Radcliffe, right?
Yes, something like that.
That's the most, like, British-sounding name ever. I love
it. It is. Anything that ends in Cliff. Like Heathcliff, the cat.
There you go.
Nobody likes.
The cat?
Isn't he a cat? Heathcliff?
He's a human character in Wuthering Heights. What the fuck cat are you talking about?
The cat
he's one of the most famous characters in all of Victorian literature.
Oh, okay.
It's like Heathcliff and Sherlock Holmes. What cat are you going on about?
Hold on. Yeah, Heathcliff the cat. He's a cat. Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats.
Sherlock Holmes and Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't know no cat you're talking about.
Okay, listen, we'll argue about Heathcliff later. So when this spy runs his camera back up to the doctor, he opens the cabin door and he realizes it's not the doctor. Like, it's a totally different guy wearing the doctor's exact same clothes and reading the exact same newspaper.
Really, really great moment.
And the guy looks creepy because he has, like, no eyebrows.
Yes, yeah.
The spy's like, where's the doctor? And then the next thing we see, the train's pulling away from the station, and the body of the spy has been, like, dumped.
Yeah, like, you say spy, he's kind of like a bodyguard.
Well, he's working for he's one of the Home Office spies that was supposed to be protecting. You're right, he is a bodyguard, but then Harry Palmer takes his job.
Also, so then we get the Harry Palmer credit sequence, which is amazing. We get the John Barry music, which is very understated compared to his James Bond scores. But the entire credit sequence is just
so well.
Exactly, it's great music, and the entire credit sequence is just him getting ready for his day. I think he has coffee, not tea, right?
Yeah, he has coffee. The thing that pisses me off the most is that he's got the most annoying alarm clock in the world, and he lets it go off for like 45 seconds before turning it off.
This movie is doing its own thing, but it's also, by the nature of when it's released and everything, it is kind of, in its own way, sort of a commentary on the James Bond series. And just setting up this spy as just like a working class, normal guy who works like a 9 to 5, I think is so interesting.
Yeah, well, because he's not a globetrotter, you know? He's not going on these super secret, super dangerous missions inside of volcanoes in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
He's just living and working in London, and he occasionally gets assigned difficult cases.
Also, we should point out, I mean, he essentially has Austin Powers glasses.
Yeah.
And Austin Powers primarily took inspiration from the James Bond series, certainly with Dr. Evil and all sorts of plot machinations and stuff. But there's definitely a Palmer influence as well that's reflected in... They got Michael Caine, basically, to do an exaggerated elderly Harry Palmer in Goldmember.
Yes, yeah.
There's a brief flashback in Goldmember where they clearly just show an old Michael Caine film. And I think I haven't seen Goldmember in forever, but I think like he crashes his car, and I think that's where his wife and Austin's mom dies or something. And I thought maybe it was the Ipcress File or maybe Funeral in Berlin, and it wasn't, but it was a movie from around that time.
Oh, that'd be funny if it was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they would have done it if they could have gotten the rights.
Yeah, if they had, well, probably just if they have the right footage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we have any scenes of Harry Palmer looking sad. He mostly just looks bored.
Yeah, or he's severely disheveled and bloody in
well, sure, when he's being fucking tortured, sure.
Yeah. So the end of this sequence comes when he gets dressed and everything. And again, we're just kind of following him around through his daily routine. Was he circling jobs in the paper? Was he job hunting?
He might have been. That would certainly be in line with his character. I don't recall, though.
But he goes back to his bed, and he picks up like this charm bracelet that's clearly a woman's, and then he throws back the sheets, and then he grabs his gun.
What kind of gun does he have?
Oh, I forget.
Does he have a revolver?
No, well, he gets a revolver. But at first it's an automatic, yeah. Because the War Office uses automatics, but the Home Office uses revolvers.
There are a few Walter PPKs we see, like when the woman's in his apartment, when he goes there. They bust out the James Bond gun there.
Yes.
He has a Luger later, too.
Yes, he does. You're right.
I've been gun shopping lately, so I've been paying attention to this kind of stuff, yeah.
Because you live in America, can you buy like a really cool like World War II machine gun?
Probably. I've seen some crazy shit for sale. Yeah, probably. I walked into Cabela's and I'm like, hey, can you show me the bazookas? And they just pointed down the corner, so probably.
Fuck off. Harry Palmer, he heads into like this stakeout attic where there's another intelligence officer, and he spooks him by kicking the door in. Mm-hmm. They kind of have a bit of a back and forth, and later on, Harry's relieved. Or I guess I'll call him Palmer. Palmer's relieved from his position because he has to go to meet his boss, who's going to take him for a meeting at the Home Office.
Major Dalby.
Yeah, well, there's Ross.
Oh no, it's Ross at this point. It's Dalby later.
Yeah, Ross is his boss, and I guess he's a major or something.
Colonel.
And then, okay, there you go. And then his boss does become Major Dalby,
who was played by Nigel Green, who's definitely like an actor that I've seen. He acted alongside Caine in Caine's breakout role Zulu the year before, which is a fantastic movie if you can get past the colonialism.
Oh, I think I can get past it.
Well, I know you can. I know you can. I know that was for the audience. That was for the listeners. Jim, I have no doubt in my mind that you can get past the colonialism.
I was like, I've seen Zulu before.
Yeah, no, that was not for you. We have people listening. There are dozens of them, Jim.
Oh, I can't breathe. Oh my god. Yeah, you're right.
Big inspiration for the Helm's Deep sequence in the Two Towers. Probably
yes,
the biggest
Peter Jackson
influence
loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's really we're not really given a reason as to why Palmer's being switched from the War Office to the Home Office. All we know is that his current boss, Ross, he seems quite reserved. Mm-hmm. And he does appear to put up with a lot of Palmer's jokes and office antics, and the fact that he's kind of insubordinate.
He's insubordinate. Yeah. Palmer's got a lot of personality, and he rubs his superiors the wrong way in a lot of ways. But he and Ross,
he rubs women the right way.
Yeah, exactly. But he and Ross seem to have a fairly good working relationship, probably more so than you would expect for a classic doesn't play by the rules cop. I know he's not a cop, but he's like Axel Foley in the Home Office or whatever. Yeah.
And then once Palmer is switched over to the Home Office and Dalby's his boss, I mean, you kind of see this attitude of Palmer's come through when Dalby's showing him around the offices and stuff, and he runs into a woman, and they kind of have to sidestep each other in the hallway. And what does he say? He goes, "Oh, thank you for the lovely evening," or something, and he kind of laughs. And Dalby's like, "None of that here. Knock it off. We're all about business."
Yeah, Dalby doesn't put up with any of his shit.
Yeah, he is this kind of stiff upper-lipped, wannabe like aristocrat. That's how he seems. Always dressed in fine clothes, perfect posture, never raises his voice. Mm-hmm. The point of Palmer coming here is he's replacing Taylor, who was the guy that was killed at the beginning of the movie. And then after Palmer's tour, he heads out to find Mr. Grantby. Grantby is everybody's got these weird nicknames like Blue Jay and
they're code names. You say nicknames.
Oh, sorry, code names. Yeah, they're right.
Nicknames. Yeah. You got Fatso over there.
Yeah, an idiot. That's me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of Fatso in Dirty Harry.
House Martin's one of them, right? He's the eyebrowless guy.
Yeah.
This Grantby guy, Dalby, seems to be of the opinion that he has taken, or that he's the one responsible for taking Dr. Radcliffe. Now, they're not entirely sure. They don't even know where Grantby is. So they have to find him. And
they're also talking about, forgive me, I don't remember if this was Ross or Dalby, but they're talking about, there's a series of high-level British scientists. No, most of them haven't been kidnappings. This is the one that's a kidnapping. But a bunch of British scientists, defect.
Oh, that's
and
right.
And then they lump this incident in with that, and they're like, "Well, we really shouldn't. It's a kidnapping." But someone's like, "No, trust me, it's got to all be related." Yeah. It's like a little tiny bit of Cold War stuff that's always kind of on the periphery here.
Yeah, and I think, too, that they were saying that, like, Ross has a theory about... Oh, I forget what his theory was, but wasn't it something about, like, people's brains being damaged or something? Do you remember that?
I'm not sure when that comes up, but yes.
They've been keeping an eye on this Grampy guy, and they have to find him. Nobody knows where he is, and Dalby kind of says, like, hey, don't approach him. If you find him, let me know, and we'll go from there. But Palmer's like, listen, that's not how I roll. I'm going to go out and find him. And he kind of becomes quick friends with a guy in the office named Jock. And that's who he says it to. He's like, listen, Dalby might work this way, but that's not how I work. Palmer, with the help of his Scotland Yard buddy, discovers that Grampy has a car that keeps getting tickets in the same spot. So he goes, finds the car, finds Grampy's henchman, and discovers that Grampy's in this library, just reading up on various scientific treaties and things, and, I don't know, whatever. When Palmer does approach him, he tells him that he's interested in buying a piece of scientific equipment that was lost on a train.
I would just like to point out, both Jim and I were humanities students, for the record. You never guess.
Yeah, yeah, especially when I said treaties.
Scientific treaties? I don't know.
Scientific methods. I could have said methods. I wanted to sound more intelligent, and I clearly fumbled it. Yeah, so Grampy's being coy with Palmer. And he's like, shh, we're in a library. If you want to talk to me and you want to talk about this piece of scientific equipment I might have, call me. Here's my number, but only call me after 6. So Palmer's like, okay, perfect, thanks. And he leaves. He immediately goes outside to check to see if the number is like a live line. And he discovers through the, what are they called, Patrick? The fucking people on the phones. Anyways, he discovers.
I was going to say telemarketer, but no, I know what you're talking about.
Hello, would you like to buy... Yeah, operator.
Phone operator. You were the Vast of Night fan. You should know this.
Oh, damn it, you're right. But yeah, so the operator's like, no, this line has been cut. It's been discontinued. So just as Palmer discovers that, Grampy and his big bodyguard henchman guy are walking out of the library, and Palmer approaches them, and he fights with the bodyguard. And it's kind of a really neat scene, because it's a simple fight.
This is the one right outside the Royal Albert Hall?
Yes, yeah.
Beautiful location for a scene like this. And I like how it's shot. This movie, by the way, has very, very 60s cinematography. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is it's color, but they're going for like a noirish thing, but the color makes it feel so 60s. A lot of Dutch angles.
Yes, almost too many.
Arguably. And this scene in particular, this fight scene, a lot of the shots are from kind of far away.
Yeah, and they're, a lot of the view is obstructed by this
telephone booth.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you're watching the fight through different panes of glass, essentially, which is really neat. And again, it's kind of a simple fight. Palmer throws him down the stairs. They trade
We do get
punches.
The patented Sean Connery flip at one point.
Yeah, and I liked that. That's good.
Yeah, Saltzman was like, you gotta put that in the picture.
Yeah, he's smoking a cigar. Make sure you get the flip in there. Which he was Canadian. I didn't know that.
Saltzman was?
Yeah.
So was the director, Sidney J. Furie, by the way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that either. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, because you brought up shots, it almost makes me wish that the first several Bond movies were filmed in this kind of way. You know what I mean? Where you had these Dutch angles and stuff. Because a lot of the Bond stuff just feels kind of flat.
It does, but I also think this style, and maybe this style would have worked really well for Dr. No, or like the first half of From Russia with Love. Mm-hmm. I think it works as a way to make something exciting that isn't that exciting. Like when you get to Goldfinger, you don't need fancy camera angles. There's actually like a lot of action in that movie. Mm-hmm. But like Dr. No, it's a running joke on this pod now is that I can't watch that without taking a big fat nap in the middle. But like I think Dr. No could have probably benefited from this kind of style. I do agree with that. But I think by the time we're getting to the mid 60s, I think Bond doesn't need this. But a movie like this does, because there's really not a lot of action. This is more Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy than it is Mission Impossible,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. During the fight, the henchman, what's his name? Housemart, he escapes Palmer and he runs towards the car. And him and Grampy speed off. So Palmer loses them. And he has to go back to the office and say, I met him. but unfortunately I lost him. And he doesn't tell Dalby that he got into a fight with House Martin or anything. Palmer decides to go home. This is when he notices that someone is inside his apartment. His light's on, his door's been opened, so he stalks in, and he throws an inner door open, and it's this woman from the Home Office who's checking in on him on orders of Dalby.
Yeah, I believe,
right? Yeah. I forget her name.
Yes, this is Jean.
That's it, Jean.
Played by Sue Lloyd, who is an actress that has a lot of chemistry with Caine. I think that those two are really good together. And
this is the scene I was talking about earlier where when he walks up to her with his gun drawn, he walks right up to her, like, face to crotch, and that's when he slides his pistol into his pants. Yeah, I guess there's not sexual overtones, but undertones, it's just palpable in that scene between these two people. And he's made himself out to be a bit of a ladies' man in the movie, and he lets people know that he's a ladies' man. And this is also a scene where Jean says, like, well, I'm going to report back to Dalby, and I'm going to tell him, that you're not as dumb and brutish as you seem. You like classical music and literature, and you like to cook.
He's referred to as a gourmet. Dalby calls him a gourmet. But that was one of my favorite scenes, by the way, when the two of them met kind of covertly at just a Tesco's or whatever. They're just at a grocery store.
Ross, yes.
Was it? Okay, I loved that scene because it was something really relatable to the grocery store by me, which has the tightest aisles in the fucking world. But it was just like, they kept like, people kept like bumping into them and like getting in the way. And at one point, I think Dalby like grabbed something, and then he's like, "That's cat food, sir," or something like that.
Baby food.
Baby food. That's what it was. Yeah. Yes.
Well, and that scene was great because you have a guy who probably doesn't do his own shopping.
For sure. Yeah, I think there was even a line like, "I'm shocked you would ever come to a place like this," or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have the working man spy and the upper class spy. The boss spy who lives a completely different life. Which I forget when that happens. I remember writing a note about it, but I guess I'll come across it.
It's after they get the file, because he tells them to make a copy of it.
That's right. Okay. Jean is quite impressed by Palmer's cooking, and he whips out like a great line. He whips out this perfect line where she's asking him, like, because like we're watching him crack eggs with one hand, and I can't do that. I need both my hands to crack
I struggle with all three of mine.
She says something like, "Oh, that's quite a lot of food, isn't it?" And he goes, "Well, it's easier to make food for two than it is for one, and I'm hoping you'd stay for dinner."
The line is it's just as easy to cook for two as it is for one. Which I have heard that before, unless it was just this movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it's great, and he's trying to come on to her, and we get a bit of a backstory about her, like she's a widow and yada yada yada, but she kind of turns him down. So Palmer gets a call from his buddy at Scotland Yard, and Eyebrows, aka House Martin, aka has no eyebrows. He's been taken in by the police. I don't remember for what, but Palmer's like, "Okay, don't worry, I'll be there. I want to question him." And when Palmer shows up at the police station, this cop goes, "Oh yes, hello sir. Yeah, Mr. Palmer's already taken the prisoner." And he goes, "I'm Palmer." And he goes, "Get your keys." And when
that's his line in this movie. It's funny, like James Bond has James Bond, and Harry Palmer just has 2 or 3 times someone just goes like, "Oh, are you Palmer?" And he's like, "I'm Palmer." Like, it's just so blunt. It's just like there's nothing like cool about it. He says it 2 or 3 times. It's like almost his catchphrase.
Yeah, it's right before they raid that factory, and they pull up Palmer, and he goes, "I'm Palmer." Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay, follow us.
It's such an unsexy kind of like introduction.
Well, it's so much cooler when James Bond says it when he's wearing a bow tie playing baccarat or poker or whatever.
Sure,
he's doing,
of course.
Right? House Martin's dead. He's been killed by some unknown assailant. Actually, I think he says he's probably been killed by Blue Jay, which would be Grampy. I think like the next big thing to happen is that Palmer thinks he knows where Radcliffe has been taken, and I don't remember how he finds it out, but he calls all these home office guys to this abandoned factory. The intention is to essentially raid this factory, save Radcliffe, whatever. And there's a great line when like the scene is so neat where this car pulls up, Palmer goes, "Lose that door, will ya?" And then the camera's inside the car and it backs up and it just drives right through the door of this factory. Mm-hmm. When they bust the door down, nobody's in there. There's not a soul in the building, and nothing. And there's like this big, weird kind of X-shaped thing hanging from the ceiling. These like X-shaped girders. Palmer's like, weird, I wonder what these are for. But nobody's here.
Yeah, and so this is a chewing out from Colonel Ross.
Dalby.
You're right, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I forgive you. Dalby's annoyed, and and this is a great line too. Palmer says, if Radcliffe had been here, I would have been a hero. And Dalby says, he wasn't, and you're not.
Yeah. Why would Palmer say that? Like,
I don't know. It's like, yeah, no shit, dude.
Like, you set that one up, you just placed that one on a tee.
Yeah,
and Dalby just knocked it out of the park.
So everybody's kind of dejected, especially Palmer, and Dalby's pissed with him, and everybody's leaving. But Palmer stoops and he finds this audio tape in like a stove or something, because he says, hey, the stove is still warm. Also, I've just found this audio tape, and it's labeled Ipcress. So they take it back to the office and they play it, and it's just like wonky, weird noises,
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, then there's this scene that we referenced in the supermarket between Palmer and Ross. Ross is looking for Palmer to get him the Ipcress tape. And Palmer's like, I don't really know. Like, that's, I can't be doing that. We're working for the same team here. And this is when we, the audience, kind of feel that Ross is up to something.
Right.
And it's weird because this is like the first time that you're like, oh, maybe this guy is untrustworthy.
And Ross makes threats to Palmer, too. There's something about, like, we can dig up your criminal past or
right.
something.
Yes. Yeah,
because he's a Cockney, so naturally he's got a criminal record of some kind.
Yeah, and, like, Ross saved him from going to prison or something or other. I don't know. Anyways, somehow Dalby gets a meeting with Grantby, and he invites Palmer along. And they go to, like, this outdoor concert venue where they're listening to some military band. And... Grantby sits down right next to Dalby, and they discuss Radcliffe. They agree on a price, $25,000. Dalby's going to get Radcliffe, Grantby's going to get the money. And he gives Dalby directions to the drop. Now this scene, I think it might be my favorite scene in the movie. They both show up, like both groups of people show up in ambulances, and they're both heavily armed.
Oh, this is a fantastic scene, yes.
The home office guys are in like this old like 1940s ambulance, like with like this rounded back, and they bust the back of the doors open and they get out with like machine guns. And the other guys are in like a different kind of ambulance, and they get out and they've also got machine guns. Everybody kind of walks to the center of this laneway in this parking garage, in this underground parking garage. And yeah, they do the drop. They pull out Grantby, who's on a stretcher. They check his vitals. He's still alive. They drop the $25,000 for Grantby's guys. Then they both just kind of part ways. As Grantby's ambulance, shoots out of sight, there's some movement, and Palmer yells, "Get down!" And he shoots, presumably, a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
When they get over there, turns out it's actually an American spy for the CIA who's been tailing...
In other words, he was a bad guy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Don't you have the Gulf of Tonkin incident to fake right about now, 1965, buddy?
Yeah. Don't you have everything in Cuba to do right now?
Yeah, exactly.
So then Ross and Dalby meet and discuss how Radcliffe is fine, but he doesn't remember being kidnapped. He seems to be totally okay. He's physically fit, mentally fit, everything's good. Mm-hmm. But they decide to have Palmer watch over him. Kind of doing the exact same job that Taylor was doing at the beginning of the movie. We get a bit of a scene where Palmer's tailing him around. They're going in the car together. They're going to the store together. They're doing whatever together. Palmer at some point realizes that there's somebody tailing them. And I don't know if this makes me racist, Patrick.
Oh, no.
But they show that it's a black man who's tailing them. And yes. I immediately thought CIA.
I mean, I don't think Jamaica's got a big intelligence unit in Britain. No, I know what you mean. I mean, that's the thing. Like, listen, you may be racist, but you're no more racist than European filmmakers who...
In the 1960s.
Well, I just remember, like, because obviously I've seen a lot of Italian exploitation horror movies in the 80s and stuff, and they would try and get as many black actors as they could, because it's like... Because, the Italian movies wanted to pretend to be American, and there'd just be this black Italian guy, and it's like, here, you'll play a pimp. And that's what they would do. Like, now Italy is...
I love it.
Italy's another world when it comes to that shit, but yeah. No, I know what you mean. And obviously you're right, he does turn out to be CIA.
Yes.
And he's tailing Palmer, basically just, he's like, oh, you say you killed my colleague because he was coming at you. I'm going to follow you around, and if it turns out you're lying, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, which it's like, how can you tell? Like, he's already killed your colleague. How can you, what do you mean you're gonna follow him around until he lies? To see.
Yeah, since when does the CIA shoot after asking questions? I don't understand this.
Palmer goes to this symposium with Dr. Radcliffe, and one of the first things he notices is that this CIA guy is sitting in the audience. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, in the middle of Radcliffe's lecture, he starts repeating phrases and stumbling over his words, and he seems ill. He watches the CIA agent walk away up the stairs, and Palmer follows him, pulls his gun out, and this is where we learn that he's a CIA agent, and that he's tailing him for killing the other American. Jumping forward in time, there's a psychiatrist report on Radcliffe, and the psychiatrist says that he's physically healthy, but mentally he can no longer function as a physicist. Like something's gone, something's happened to him. And this is where Ross's brain drain idea from earlier comes in.
Now, was this a real fear in the Cold War? It had to have been, right? Because this is the Manchurian candidate also.
Yeah, and you know what, too? Like, they were doing all kinds of weird stuff, whether it be the British or the Americans or the Soviets or the Chinese. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was doing weird stuff with brains and drugs and lights and sound and whatever, right? During World War II, the Russians were trying to create like human super soldiers. This I don't know how true this is. This is what I
wasn't there something about the ape men?
Yes, and they were going to try to cross them with ape DNA or something.
That's one of those things that's like, maybe, but I think someone just kind of started that as a rumor, and that's like one of those urban legends almost, I think. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it just seems too ridiculous.
Yet at the same time, the Germans were looking for the Ark of the Covenant. You know what I mean?
Is that true?
Yeah, that is true.
That's okay.
Yeah, they were looking for all kinds of possibly holy weapons.
I mean, you go back a few centuries, and we had actual governments putting money into searches for the Fountain of Youth. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense.
But getting back on our track here, back in the office, they're still trying to figure out what this Ipcress audio file is, and Palmer's buddy Jock, he finds out what Ipcress stands for. It stands for Induction of Psychoneuroses by Conditioned Reflex with Stress. But it doesn't, like, there's two S's, so you gotta use both, or you gotta use two of the three S's from stress, anyways. But Jock makes the point that it might be some kind of torture thing, or some kind of mind control thing, rather. So he says, hey, I want to go talk to Radcliffe. Can I borrow your car? Is it parked out front? And Palmer's like, yeah, for sure. And the whole time he's kind of like half looking out the window at this American agent. Jock goes out in Palmer's car, and he's sitting there at a red light trying to light a cigarette, and then the car doesn't move when the light turns green. And we see that there's a bullet hole in the windshield, and Jock has been shot square in the head.
Right.
Palmer's pretty freaked out about this. He's like, oh my God,
that was intended for me.
Exactly. He's like, he was in my car. This American agent he saw me and he shot me, and oh my God, I can't go home. And Jean, she's like, well, come and stay with me for a few days. And he goes, you know what, I think I will. So he goes home to get his things, and I like this shot too, because he finds the American agent dead in his living room. But the shot is really cool because it's like through this like pendant light. So he turns the light on, and the agent sprawled out on the floor, kind of half framed by this light. It's just a neat shot. Artistic, something you don't see in James Bond. Palmer calls a meeting with Dalby, and he says, hey, Jock's been killed, and Jock made a breakthrough in this file, and, I got this dead agent in my apartment, and somebody's setting me up. And he goes, I think it's Ross. He goes, I think Ross is setting me up. He goes, listen, Dalby, he wanted this audio tape, but I wouldn't give it to him. I think he's setting me up. And Dalby goes, thanks for letting me know. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of the body too, but you should make yourself scarce. Like, get out of here. So the next morning, when Palmer leaves Jean's flat, she turns around and calls Ross. And then Dalby meets Ross at their gentleman's club, and he tells him, he says, hey, I know that you wanted the Ipcress file. Palmer's told me. And Ross just says, well, shut up. I don't care. Go find Grampy. Palmer's on the train. He's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. And he's kind of trying to lay low. And then the conductor comes by knocking on the doors asking for tickets. But when Palmer opens the door, he gets the gun shoved into his throat. When Palmer wakes up, or the next time we see Palmer, he's in this dingy little cell, and he turns out to be in Grampy's like torture mind control.
Yeah, they say he's in Albania.
Yes, exactly, in Albania.
which is a fate worse than death for most people.
Listen, I bet it's pretty cool. So Palmer is in this Albanian torture, mind control, hypnotism jail, and Grampy's there, and he's like, listen, you're going to be tortured with this mind control thing, with the Ipcress noise, and they wheel him into a box that's then suspended in the air by these big steel beams that we saw earlier in this abandoned factory in London. And inside the box, the Ipcress noise is played, and there's all kinds of weird visuals on the inside of the box.
I was having some Soylent Green flashbacks. Remember
when
they put Edward G. Robinson to death? It kind of looked like this a little bit. This is more kind of psychedelic.
Yeah, and you know what? And you gotta wonder, like, does stuff like this actually work? I mean, I guess we could ask the CIA, right?
Oh yeah, someone's tried it. I can't imagine it works, but I don't know.
Wasn't that also the plot for, like, the Winter Soldier, Captain America's buddy?
There's a lot of, like, brainwashing type things. I mentioned the Manchurian Candidate as a really famous example from the Cold War. Yeah, the Winter Soldier, there was some kind of brainwashing thing. I think the Soviets got him or something. Brainwashing's a fun spy plot, whether it's realistic or not. Because it's a terrifying... I mean, brainwashing does exist. I don't know if it happens in, like, a scientific way, like it does here. But brainwashing, like, cults and stuff, like, that stuff does happen, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, you even get brainwashing from social media, Like, it's been proved that algorithms are feeding you the exact same thing. So if you see like one or two racially charged videos, you'll start to see more. Yeah, creepy stuff. But what's even creepier too, but actually kind of soothing now that I think about it, is Grampy projects his voice into the box, and he says things like, you'll forget the Ipcress noise, you'll forget the Ipcress file, and you'll forget your name
is Harry Palmer.
Yes, exactly.
And he keeps going, I'm Harry Palmer, I'm Harry Palmer. It really is a catchphrase, although this time he at least includes his first name.
Yeah, you're right, it is a catchphrase, yeah. Yeah, so then they're like, hey, well, we can tell this is going to work, because Palmer's, he's made of thicker stuff. He's made of sturdier stuff. By the way,
Caine's performance as he's being psychologically tortured, fantastic.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
This is his best work in the movie, I think. This is tough to do. They obviously have like a little bit of like blood and sweat and like makeup and stuff, but like this is all him. He is communicating this perfectly.
Yeah, and he does it so well in the eyes and the...
Yeah, he's got such a pained expression on his face the entire time. You completely believe him.
Grampy realizes like, hey, we're going to have to intensify Palmer's treatments here to make this work. So he's going to have to go into the box day in and day out, and every time he falls asleep, we're going to put him in the box. So that's essentially what happens. Eventually, after, I think he's like there for like 2 weeks or something. So there's this point in time where he has like this nail, and he's carving the days into the walls of his cell. And then in possibly one of his last hypnotizing box adventures, he's just squeezing this nail into the palm of his hand. To try to remind himself who he is.
I've heard or seen, and I've just seen this on TV. This is just as much bullshit as anything else. But like, supposedly how people like beat lie detector tests and stuff. It's like a lot of them will just
putting nails in their shoes.
Yeah, something like that. So there's like constantly an elevated sense of stress or whatever.
After like 2 weeks, one day when the guards come in to pull him out into the box or something, he overpowers them and he takes their guns. He locks them in his cell, and he escapes the compound. And he runs out of the front doors of the place, and he hops a fence, and he's looking around, and the first thing he notices is double-decker bus come by with, like, London Transit on the side or something like that. And he goes, oh my god, I'm actually in London. He calls Dalby, who's surprisingly sitting on a couch with Grampy. And he says, hey, I was disappeared, I'm back, I thought I was in Albania, I'm in London, I'm gonna come to you. Both Dalby and Grampy are totally shocked that he's broken out. And Dalby says something along the lines of like, has it worked? And he's like, I think he needs a few more sessions. Over the phone, Dalby tries to use this hypnotizing type language on him. He says, I want you to call Ross, and I want you to have him meet at the warehouse, and I want you to forget that you spoke to me, and I want you to forget that you made this telephone call, and I want you to forget everything about this. When Dalby shows up at the warehouse, Palmer disarms him immediately and places him against the wall. And, this is proof that none of the hypnotizing stuff worked on Palmer. When Ross shows up, he does the same to him. And he's got them both up against this brick wall, and he's got a gun pointed at each of them. He's kind of trying to figure it out, because he's like, I don't know who's bad. Dalby's clearly bad, but is Ross also in on this? And there's a bit of a back and forth. And I forget what it is, but like, Ross kind of just says, it's not me. And Dalby pulls the hypnotism again. He's like, oh, you'll shoot Ross. And then as Dalby goes to reach for a gun, because clearly he realizes it's not working.
Well, he tells him, shoot the traitor now.
That was it. Shoot the traitor now.
Indicating, obviously, like, Ross is the traitor, but Palmer knows. Yeah.
Palmer shoots Dalby. Dead. He slumps to the floor, and then Palmer and Ross are kind of standing there talking, and it turns out this was all Ross. This whole thing, the whole movie, was concocted by Ross. This was his plan. Because he suspected that Dalby was a double agent and that he was working with Grant Bay and all this crazy stuff was going on.
And he basically trusted Palmer to be insubordinate enough to figure it out, which is really great. It's a fun twist.
Yeah. And then that's it. Then the movie just kind of ends like that right there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Patrick, what did you think of the Ipcress file?
I like it quite a bit. I've seen this movie a handful of times now. If you're looking for a James Bond movie, this isn't it. I do think that's more entertaining than Dr. No.
Mm-hmm.
This actually, we're doing the James Bond comparisons, which aren't fair.
But you have to.
You kind of do. But, like, let's imagine this movie comes out before Dr. No. Could Harry Palmer have been James Bond?
You know,
they probably would have had to end up making it more action-packed, which is what the James Bond series steadily did. By the time we hit Goldfinger, we're fully established. But I think this is a really great, like, introduction to what obviously could have been a series, and they did. They made a trilogy here. But it's a really fun character. He's brilliantly portrayed by Michael Caine.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the story is wild.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily wild in a fun way. But I'll give a lot of credit to Caine's portrayal, because even as the story kind of goes off the rails and gets ridiculous, he still grounds the movie. Like, even in all the brainwashing stuff, again, my focus was on Caine's performance when he's being tortured. It's like, wow, he is selling this. Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still kind of making it work. I like the movie. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I do think it's definitely an interesting product of its time as this, like, British James Bond related movie. You know, as we mentioned, Saltzman, producer, Peter R. Hunt, the editor, John Barry doing the score. But I think what I like most about it is the character. And which is interesting, because that's what I like most about that first James Bond movie, is the character. And the character is completely different. But I like the kind of working class character. He hates his job. He wants a raise. It's all this stuff. And I like a civil servant that has that kind of personality, that has that kind of, like, sarcasm and insubordination. To me is really, really fun.
Yeah.
I like the movie. I would watch it again. Jim, what about you?
I like it a lot. I like the whole hypnotism thing. I like...
You did? Because
I did. I enjoyed it.
Maybe the stuff that I liked the least in the movie, but okay, go on. Sorry.
I mean, it's just kind of like a fun, very 60s, very Cold War type storyline.
Do they do something like that in On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
I think
the girls?
They did. I
think they do something with that. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever they went to bed.
It's a very 60s thing.
So I like all that stuff. Obviously, Michael Caine's fantastic. The character of Harry Palmer's great. I don't like the character as much as I like Sean Connery's James Bond.
I'm not necessarily saying I do either. I like him as a change of pace, an alternative. I think they're both great characters, both a lot of fun.
But I think it's interesting to have the globe-trotting, explosion, woman-getting, big, world-ending Bond stories, and then you have this home office spy who, like you said, hates his job. He hates doing paperwork. And most of the movie is just footwork. Which I found exciting. I liked the whole story from beginning to end. Even the way it was shot, I thought it was like, again, even though I complained about the Dutch angles in the beginning, I said there might be too many, but I thought that the movie was shot in a very artistic way compared to a James Bond movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice change of pace.
It's very noirish.
Yeah, it is. It's very noirish.
And the story, the pacing, is more crime noir than it is what we think of as a spy movie, because, like I said, this is a spy thriller. It's not a spy adventure. It's a much slower movie. It's not really a lot of action. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy of the 21st century is probably the best comparison, and that movie's great too. Yeah,
other than things like the modern James Bonds and Mission Impossible and stuff, I think most spy movies have kind of transitioned to become something like, what's the movie again? Ipcress File. The Ipcress File. I think a lot of modern spy movies do kind of have like a slower pace. Don't ask me to give you an example because I can't think of one. But
well, then what the fuck are we doing then? I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but I will say if that is true, it's probably a budget thing. Because they probably realize we can't do the James Bond Mission Impossible action. Jason Bourne action. We don't have that kind of, so we have to be more plot intrigue. And plot intrigue, you know, it's necessary for all of those movies, even the really action-packed ones. It's just that that's most of the focus in a movie like the Ipcress File. Yeah, the Ipcress File is good. Now, I was looking at Caine's filmography, because his run from, let's say, 64 to 72, we could even go a little further if we want to get the man who would be king in there in 75. For most of these years, with the exception of 64, 65, 64 he only makes Zulu, 65 he only makes the Ipcress File. He's making like 3 movies a year. So I'm not even going to name all of them, but here's some of the classics he rips off. So Zulu is what starts it. That's where Michael Caine becomes Michael Caine, which is interesting, actually, because he plays against type. You know, not that he had a type back then, but he plays like a proper British officer. He doesn't play a Cockney in that.
Yeah.
So he has Zulu, then he has Ipcress File. 66, he's got Alfie, which is his first Academy Award nomination. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. He also has Gambit that year, which I think is
He's a Marvel movie, yeah.
Yeah, no. I think that's like kind of a famous one, though. I don't... 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, only 7 reviews, though. So, like... Anyways, Funeral in Berlin, which is the first Harry Palmer sequel. 67, he does $1 Billion Brain, which I didn't love. 68, Nothing I Really Know. 69, of course, is The Italian Job, which is amazing. Also, The Battle of Britain is a Guy Hamilton movie, the director of Goldfinger, which, if not a classic, that was at least a big movie. 70, he does Too Late the Hero, which I've at least heard of. 71, he's got Get Carter, which is awesome. That might be my favorite of all these movies, other than Zulu. And 72, he does Sleuth.
Yes.
Which I've never seen, but is a classic. You're a big fan of that. That's classic pairing yesterday's biggest British star, Olivier, with today's Michael Caine. So these are like all British movies, maybe with a few exceptions. They're all classics, and there's a wide variety there. He does the romantic dramedy with Alfie. He does war movies. He does action movies. Get Carter is like a Dirty Harry Death Wish kind of movie. The Italian Job is like a classic like action comedy heist movie. What a guy. Michael Caine, he's just amazing.
Extremely talented, storied career.
Yeah. And he did do a lot of spy movies. Some of those other movies are like spy, like it's not just Harry Palmer. Like, I don't know what it was. Was it just like James Bond? Did James Bond kind of make the spy movie like an institution, maybe?
I think they did. And it's a shame that he was never James Bond, I think.
I'm glad he wasn't. Because let's imagine they cast him in On Her Majesty's Secret Service or in Live and Let Die, whenever, you know, or maybe if he's in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, maybe they don't even bring Connery back. And maybe he's just running throughout the Roger Moore series. Who knows? First of all, I do think he could have pulled off the Roger Moore comedy.
Yes.
I also think that it's funny, there was a little bit of controversy when they recast Craig, because Craig's blonde. But I think if you recast the character early enough and he's blonde, then him being dark-haired is not an essential part of the character anymore. So I don't think there would have been a problem having a blonde James Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I could be wrong. But I think if he does that in 69, and then let's say he's tied in at least through several of those Roger Moore movies, maybe he's not doing A View to a Kill, maybe he's not doing Octopussy. But here's what we lose. What we probably lose, because it's not like those actors didn't do anything while they were James Bond, but we probably lose Sleuth, we probably lose Get Carter, we probably lose The Man Who Would Be King, which is him being paired with Connery. That's a great movie. We lose A Bridge Too Far. We lose The Swarm, which is fine. I don't mind that. We might lose Dress to Kill. Like, he made some... And then who knows...
And Sleuth. I'm sure he said it.
That's the first one I
said.
Sorry,
oops, never mind.
And then you look at the actors that have played Bond and who's had, you know, Connery's had a very good post-Bond career. He obviously hasn't well, he's dead now, but he didn't act the last decade and a half or 2 decades or whatever. But having that role changes your career.
It does.
And you don't get the same kind of roles.
No.
And so I wonder, you know, the career that Michael Caine ended up having was so good. I worry. I assume that had he been James Bond at one point or another, it would have changed that. We would have lost some really great movies, great performances.
Yeah, and you're probably right, because James Bond is one of those franchises where the actors become the character forever.
Mm-hmm. It might be the epitome of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I think he could have done it. I think he would have been a fine James Bond. I do love that we kind of see his take on it. Again, it is a different character, and it's great. I like it quite a bit, but it isn't the same, and that's fine. I like that it's this other thing.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the Ipcress File as a film? Are you looking forward to the other Harry Palmer movies when we get to them?
I am looking forward to them. I really enjoyed the Ipcress File.
Funeral in Berlin, by the way, what a title!
A great title.
That's oh man, I don't remember much about that movie, but that's an incredible title.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and I like the Harry Palmer character. I love Michael Caine, and I like this type of spy movie.
Mm-hmm. So from one brainwashing movie to another, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Invaders from Mars from 1953, directed by William Cameron Menzies. I have no idea who this guy is. Not too many familiar actors. This is a 20th Century Fox movie. I like pointing that out because you watch some of these old 50 sci-fi movies. There was a difference between an A movie and a B movie. This was as close to an A movie as those movies kind of got. It is in color. It's in a weird color, Cinecolor, which I haven't really... I guess it was kind of a cheaper alternative to Technicolor. So Technicolor movies look amazing. This doesn't look that good. In fact, this movie's lit very, very darkly. I also think My Transfer didn't look that great. My version of this, anyways, just was very dimly lit. A few scenes, the color temperature seemed to change, so it just wasn't a very good transfer. But this is a classic flying saucer film. Like a lot of the great 50s sci-fi movies, this was remade. This was remade by Tobe Hooper in the 80s. Like the
80s, yeah.
And which, that movie's okay. It's not great. I want to point out, though, just look up the poster from the 1986 version. The poster is just the fence. Oh. And it's basically the same looking fence. So I just want to point out that fence, where so much of the movie revolves around that fence, that which is clearly a set, by the way. This is an iconic image of 50s science fiction if you're into 50s science fiction movies. So this film was actually rushed into production because someone at 20th Century Fox knew George Pal was making War of the Worlds, and that was in Technicolor, and that was going to be the first big science fiction epic in color, and they're like, we gotta beat that. So that's where I guess Cinecolor comes in as being a cheaper alternative. But this is no War of the Worlds, nor does it look as good as War of the Worlds. But I think it's an all-right movie. So the movie starts with narration. We have a narration kind of referring to that there's potentially all sorts of other life out on these planets. And the narration is actually by the actor that plays the character of Dr. Stuart Kelston, the scientist that we meet later in the movie. By the way, before we really get started, do you think this might have been an inspiration for Stranger Things?
Yeah, I guess it's a possibility.
It does kind of have that feel. It's got that youthful, suburban... It has the like government or / military thing in the town that's clearly up to something a little sketchy.
And then even when they drop into the
tunnels was
spoilers.
Very season 2. Yes, yeah. That's true. I think when I was watching season 2 of Stranger Things, when I wasn't falling asleep because that season sucked, I was like, this is Invaders from Mars. I think I was even thinking about that. After the narration, we have a young boy named David who wakes up to an alarm at like 4 a.m. and he goes to stargaze. And his parents also awake at this alarm, and then they tuck him back to bed. But first, the dad, George, who is a scientist, they refer to him as an engineer, so I don't know what he is, but George joins him to look. And I really like the establishment of the relationship because we basically only have this one scene of George as George. Right? So this scene's like really important. And it's fun.
Yeah.
I like how it starts out. After David goes back to bed, he wakes up again seeing a flying saucer. And there's a little bit of green light kind of all around, and he sees the flying saucer. And the flying saucer goes back beyond this fence and sinks into like the sand pit, I think they refer to it. So I don't know where the hell they live. They live on a golf course in the world's biggest bunker. I don't know. The sand pit's a little confusing.
On the newest Trump 18-hole course.
Anyways, he tells his dad, hey, I saw something out there. We got to go look. And the dad's like, nah, I'll check it out in the morning. But the dad does end up going out by himself, and he disappears. And so in the morning, the mom reports him missing. The police show up. They find one of his shoes, or one of his, they call it a slipper. Yeah. It's just like it was a shoe, wasn't it? Loafers, slippers,
I think it was a slipper because he went out in his bathrobe and pajamas and stuff.
Yeah, but it's the 50s. Are you sure he wasn't wearing a suit? Even in the middle of the night? I think they all wore him to bed back then.
Yeah, he also wore a tie.
And as the police go out there and look, we actually see them kind of sink into the sand. At first, it's really neat because, like, one cop wanders off a little bit and the guy calls for him and he doesn't respond. But then the second cop gets pulled in and it's kind of ridiculous. But eventually, George returns home, but he's immediately acting like an asshole. He's mean, he's rude, he's very direct in his speech. And this is why that scene earlier was really important, not just because it's like, oh, we actually get a chance to see what George is like, but keep in mind, this is 1953. This is the era where husbands would just come home and beat their wives and drink vodka at five in the evening. Like, without that scene, we might think that's just what he is.
That's exactly.
I mean, they wouldn't have shown that in a movie back then, but people were like that.
Yeah, and my favorite part about this is that he leaves this like happy dad, and this alien encounter returns him with a scowl on his face, and he starts beating his kid. Like he
overplays it, but I actually really appreciate it because it's pretty hardcore for the 50s.
Yeah, considering that whenever they show the shot of the parents' room, they're in two separate beds. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, this is that era for sure. But yeah, and then the cops come back too, and it's like, is this your husband? And the cops are acting weird also. And then they even say something like, well, I'm sure you have a lot of work to do. It's like, we do as well. So it's like, okay, what the hell? David notices like a little mark like on the back of his dad's head, the back of his neck. Yeah. Like a little almost incision, like stitches or something. And obviously George says, there's nothing on me, and he goes like, he says he caught it on some barbed wire, and then he like hits his son or something. He tells him, makes his son go out and play with the neighbors.
There's no barbed wire, and then he's like, I told you I hit it on some barbed wire.
By the way, the boy playing David, Jimmy Hunt, this guy's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's great.
This guy's a really good kid actor because, first of all, just generally speaking, kids suck in movies. Because it's annoying how they talk. Something about the 50s, it's kind of fun to see a kid talk like oh, gee, golly, like that's just kind of fun. Like, I think his first word is G. And I think we get 2 G's in the opening scene, or maybe 2 gollies. Right. I made a note of that, though. And something about, like, if you're going to have, like, an over-exaggerated kid, I like it being a 50s kid versus, like, a modern movie kid or like an 80s movie kid.
Yes,
like there's just something fun about it. But then also like he has to actually act, and when he's like panicking and sad and stuff, it's like he's pretty good. This guy's great.
Even there's a little girl, Kathy, who we see later on.
Oh, Kathy's amazing. Yeah. Kathy is throwing 100. She's great. Yeah, this is like the next scene. So he goes over. Well, he sees Kathy walking out by the fence, and then Kathy disappears, kind of like sinks down. Then he runs to Kathy's family's house and says, hey, I just saw Kathy and she disappeared. And then the mom starts panicking, but then Kathy shows up right behind him. And Kathy, completely stone-faced, like creepy kid, and then it's just like, I'm fine. It's like nothing happened. Like, oh my God, that Kathy's great too. And then they find that there's a fire in their basement or in their cellar, and it's heavily implied that Kathy started the fire.
Yeah, well, there's that great shot where, as they're trying to put out the fire, there's that neighbor. He's like, you can't put it out. Somebody tipped over a jerry can, and there's fuel all over the floor. It's on fire. And there's a panning shot from like the mother's waist over to Kathy's face, and she just has the most sinister smile I've ever seen on a child.
Devious stuff. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, Kathy's awesome. That's like her only scene. She kind of just drops dead later for no reason.
Yeah.
So this essentially becomes kind of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He realizes there's something off with these people, and he knows it has something to do. You know, David's a bright kid. His father's a scientist, and he wants to be a scientist. One of his first phone calls, he calls his local scientist to tell him something's going on, but he can't get a hold of him. So that's Dr. Kelston.
Yeah.
He goes to the police station, and he wants to speak to the chief. And he insists on only speaking to the chief. And then the chief shows up, and right away you can tell the chief is off. Mm-hmm. And he goes in and talks to him, and then the chief throws him in a goddamn holding cell, which is so awesome. This guy's like a 6-year-old kid, 8-year-old kid, whatever he is. It's amazing.
Well, and he throws him into a cell because he's like, I'm going to get your parents.
Yeah, because, again, something's going on. The police officers that looked into the missing dad came back and knew what the dad needed to do, some kind of weird alien thing. So, like, everyone seems to understand what all these body snatcher type people understand what they need to do. Yeah, and then I don't remember, but how does the doctor end up? Oh, it was that police officer that worked at the desk who was just kind of like a good-hearted guy. Yeah, he ends up just kind of calling a doctor.
Because he's like, the kid's freaking out, you know?
Yeah, he starts to piece things together. I'm like, this is weird. The kid's freaking out. This isn't normal. And then also, those guys, I think this is later, but he's like, those guys didn't file a report.
Yeah.
They have to file a report even if the dad shows up. Like, they still have to file something. So he pieces a few things together. He doesn't end up being a very important character, but he's important for a couple scenes. So Dr. Pat Blake shows up, played by Helena Carter. The red hair looks gorgeous in Cinecolor.
Yes, yeah.
She speaks to the boy in his cell, and she gains his trust pretty easily. Well, he the first thing he asks is he needs to see the back of her head. Once it's clear that she doesn't have that incision, then he kind of tells all. Obviously, it sounds ridiculous, but she's like, she trusts him because she calls Dr. Kelston, the scientist who's over at the observatory that vouches for this kid, and he's like, he's not a tall tale teller, and like, so this was, I thought, the best scene in the movie because the mom shows up to pick him up. And he goes running to her. But you can tell the mom's off, too. But you can tell before David tells.
Yeah, and at this point, we haven't seen the mom. Like, the mom was still normal.
We haven't seen her in a while, yeah. And then the dad comes into the police station. Then the kid starts freaking out. And she's like, oh, shut up, it's fine. And then they're, like, taking him, and they're about to leave when Pat Blake shows up and says, no, he's under my custody. He's sick. He has pneumonia or whatever.
Polio.
He has a fever.
He might have polio.
He might have polio. That's what it was. Yeah. So I have to take care of him. And the parents give up, which is a sign that it's not really them. Like, you wouldn't think any normal parent would be like, wait, what the hell's going on? My son has polio.
Which was still common in the 50s, granted.
But yeah, so she takes him over to the observatory, and we get our exposition scene. This scene was very amusing. This was with Dr. Kelston, because they talked about so many speculative things as if they're just facts that everyone knows. It's like, well, we know life exists on these. It's like, what? And they're talking, and then there was something about like, oh, the kid even says, David's like, well, life existed on Mars before it existed on Earth. It's like, who? That's not a fact.
Yeah, well,
it might be true. That might be true. There's no way we knew it in 1950-3.
No, and my favorite part, there's two things I'm going to say. One is that they talk about Mars, and they're like, well, if the aliens came from someplace, they must have come from Mars because Mars passed close to Earth in orbit. But then they were talking about mutants.
Yes, they say that wrong, which I love. If you watch like an old, like, there's a Twilight Zone episode where they keep calling this thing a robot. I love, like, back in the time before these, like, the pronunciations were truly set for these certain things. But yeah, they say mutant a few times. My favorite part of this scene was Dr. Blake asks, like, how cold is it on Mars? And I don't remember what he says, but they say something like, at night it can get to 0. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me, Mars? Mars is like habitable weather. That was so funny.
See, also, my favorite part about this
I wonder how
scene,
much knowledge we knew enough to know that was wrong in 1953.
Oh, I'm sure.
Obviously didn't know enough as we do now.
No. I mean, I'm sure astronomers knew more than this fake astronomer in this movie. But I think, like, if you're gonna...
Oh, yeah, this guy's... Dr. Kelsey's full of shit. Everything he says is
also, too,
BS.
They don't know... This movie, nobody understands how fucking telescopes work. Because in this movie...
They use them during the day.
Yeah, and you have this giant telescope that they then kind of, like, bring down, and then they're watching the pit from the observatory.
Yes. Oh, and then they watch the military base.
Yeah, and he's like, look at this. Can you see a rocket through the telescope? And you're like, how the fuck are you doing that? That's not how telescopes work. There would be buildings and trees in the way.
They recalibrate the telescope in about 2 seconds and all that stuff. It's like,
it's not like it's bouncing off a satellite and then down.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Kelston pulls out a model of a UFO, of a flying saucer, and David's like, that was it. That was the one I saw. And he's like, are you sure? And he's like, this has been reported as seen by a number of my colleagues the past several... Like, okay, shouldn't we have led with this? It's like, we know there's these UFOs flying around. That was amusing to me.
when they talk about this rocket that they look at, Dr. Kelston's talking about, he's like, oh, the military's making rockets in town here, and it's to...
Yeah, there's a military base of some kind.
Yeah,
and his dad works there. His dad's like an engineer there.
Yeah, his dad works there, and then Kathy's dad makes like the rocket fuel or something. Like he's like some kind of like a rocket scientist.
Yeah, we see him later working on the night of his daughter's death, and they ask him like, "Don't you think you want to go home, sir?" And he's like, "No."
He's like, "No, I'll just mix these liquids
to handle things." Yeah, and he's just like mixing beakers left and right. Yeah, like he don't know what the fuck he's doing. He's just 50s.
No, he's like, "Yes, I'm 50s sci-fi rocket scientist."
Yes, but also I am a 50s scientist. Yes, so let me you pass me that cigarette next to the gunpowder.
Yeah. My favorite thing, though, is when they talk about this rocket, you think, oh, they're going to use it to explore other worlds. He's like, we're creating this rocket so that we can fight back against people and other people that want to fight us from space. And you're like, what?
Yeah, so that's it. It's speculated that the aliens, the mutants from Mars, have been observing us probably for centuries, but they didn't need to take actions until we were finally making a rocket, which, by the way, is the plot to The Day the Earth Stood Still, in which that plot is handled much more intelligently. That's the best 50s sci-fi movie. It's one of the best movies ever, I think. Also, by the way, this kid, Jimmy Hunt, playing David McLean, number 2 in my rankings of 50 sci-fi kids, behind the kid in The Day the Earth Stood Still, the kid with the Yankees cap. I love that kid. He's great performance. His scene outside the Lincoln, he's seen at the Lincoln Memorial with Klaatu is like, it brings tears to my eyes. I love that movie. I'm not even joking. That movie's awesome. But yeah, so Dr. Kelston just like calls up the Pentagon or whoever and tells them, because they see the, because it's through the telescope, they see the general sink into the abyss by the fence.
No, oh yeah. Well, he had called General Mayberry.
Yes,
to come for help.
Mayberry, yeah.
And then you're right. Through the telescope, they see him sink under the sand.
And then they also notice too that the fence, the little wood fence, is a lot lower than it used to be. That like the ground has changed. But yeah, so after General Mayberry disappears, he calls like another military base, and just everyone's like, "Oh yeah, they react so quickly." There's no red tape in this movie, because they get tanks out there, they get other generals out there really quick, and for a bit, it's like this like weird kind of insurrectionist movie with like these mind-controlled humans, people like George, David's dad, going around trying to sabotage like the military base. And the best scene of this is when a couple of MPs stop. It's the general, and I think it was the chief with him, and they stop in the middle of the night. They see the guys walking on the base, and they're like, "Stop, hold it right there, like we've got guns aimed at you." And the guy's like, "You idiot, I'm General Mayberry." But he's also holding a briefcase. Yeah. And they take off, so the guys shoot at them, and then they explode. Yeah. And they like explode, and they're like, Jesus, that must have had nitroglycerin in that briefcase. So they're going to like bomb it's like a insurrectionist sabotage. These mutants are creating homegrown terrorists. It's like kind of amazing.
It is, and then like this happens later in the movie.
Well, and obviously when the girl burnt down the house, that had something to do with this too.
Yes, and well, because Dr. Kelston, I think it's either Dr. Kelston or Colonel Fielding, when Colonel Fielding shows up to the town, that says that Kathy's dad is this rocket scientist. And I guess they were hoping, the aliens, the mutants, were hoping to catch Kathy's dad in the house, which is why she burnt the house down. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't there. He was out of town. But then Kathy, right, she dies. She just drops dead off screen, and we only hear about it. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that thing in the back of her neck exploded and killed her.
Yeah, and so there was something that was surgically implanted, and they suspect that the mutants, just like when the person is no longer useful, just like, fuck it, just kill the people, which is pretty dark and awesome.
Yeah.
So we have the military surrounding this like sand pit, and we always keep seeing it from one angle, which is kind of funny. But I do love that, again, that fence is iconic to someone in the right state of mind.
Yeah. Now, before we get into that, I just want to say this colonel comes down to the town, and he speaks to David, and David tells him everything. And there's this great scene where like David, Kelston, Colonel Fielding and this guy Rinaldi are on the peak of David's house, looking through binoculars at this sand pit. And there's like some great like 50s techno babble, techno jargon. And you can tell that nobody knows how anything works, right? Because like the Colonel's like, is it even possible for a whole alien craft to get below the sand without disturbing the surface? And Kelston's like, yes, if they had some kind of ray. And then David goes, like an X-ray? And Kelston goes, a radioactive ray that can eat through the earth.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyways, eventually they surround this thing. A few of the military are able to like open up a hole in the sand and they climb down there. It's a series of tunnels. And David falls in. David falls in with Dr. Pat, what was her name?
Blake.
Pat Blake. And those two get snatched up by aliens. Mutants, excuse me. Now, the number one flaw in a 50s science fiction movie, and we see it time and time again, is the movie's awesome until the monster/alien reveal.
Yeah.
It Came from Outer Space is, in my opinion, the best example. That movie's awesome, and we only get tiny glimpses of the alien throughout the movie, and then at the end it shows up, and it's like, oh god, this thing sucks. These things, I'm giving a 9 out of 10 on the It Came from Outer Space scale. These things, they're just guys in green
morph suits,
and they move. They do something weird with their arms when they move, because soldiers later on refer to them as apes.
Mm-hmm.
But they suck. But now, that having been said, the main guy, the ringleader, is awesome. It's just a severed head in a fishbowl.
He's like a blobby octopus alien.
He's got like tentacles. Face. He's so cool. That guy's awesome. He's controlling them, and we get the sense there's a bit of a hive mind with these mutants, and obviously what they did with the humans. And they're going to go and do the same thing with Dr. Blake, and the boy kind of just gets taken. But then a bunch of soldiers come down. Dr. Kelston comes down with them. They rescue the woman. They're shooting a bunch of the green apes. Every now and then we see the apes, the mutants, use their ray gun, which is really cool. It takes a while to heat up, but when it does, it just like blows a hole in the rock in this tunnel.
Yeah.
And they use that to seal. They use that to unseal certain things. But yeah, and then the boy, David, just kind of disappears for a bit. I guess he's just getting carried around by one of the apes.
No, he was captured by Rinaldi, the army guy who got turned into a drone.
Oh, that was it. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And then also too, while all this is going on, or just before all this, David's parents get captured because they tried to infiltrate that rocket research facility and kill the rocket scientist. But they flip their car when they're trying to escape, and then the MPs take them to a hospital to hopefully remove these implants.
Yeah, and I love how we never see them again, but there is like a slap together line by Dr. Blake. It's like, oh, that means your parents are going to be okay. I was like, okay.
Sure.
At this point. We haven't seen them in an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get the climax. I have a problem with all the tunnel stuff. It's not great, in part because the tunnel all kind of looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
The spatial relations are not really well established. But at one point, the aliens with their ray gun end up sealing up their escape route, the soldiers' escape route. And then the colonel and a bunch of soldiers get into kind of the spaceship part of it, which has a very Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it's all kind of greenish, and there's like glass.
There should be a Toto pulling on a curtain somewhere in the corner there.
Yeah.
So the military sets all these explosive charges, and when they get out of there, they use dynamite or something. They blow up parts so that you can't enter the spaceship, so that there's rocks covering it. And then eventually when they realize they're trapped in the tunnels, then they try to go back, but they're like, oh, we can't get in. But then they find David. And David, being the little kid genius that he is, figures out how to use the ray gun. I love how he's like, we can use this.
Yeah, he just picks it up off the ground.
But yeah, then they're like, oh, let him use it. Like, give that to the colonel, or give that to a private at least.
Give it to an adult.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Give it to an adult.
The thing's bigger than him.
Yeah.
And so they use it. They escape. The UFO starts taking off. It comes out of the sand. And tanks are shooting at it, and it explodes right as it's taking off in the air. Not from the tanks, from the charges on the inside, and it's honestly amazing.
Yeah, it's a huge explosion. It's awesome.
Pat Blake and Dr. Kelston with the little kid, they're like, oh, it's okay. It's your parents are going to be okay. Everything's good. And it's like, okay.
He wakes up and it was all a dream. His parents are still in bed. The hill is totally fine. And then he goes back to bed, but then he wakes up at 5:40 a.m. again in the morning, and he sees another spaceship, and he's like, oh, wow. And then the movie ends.
So that's Invaders from Mars, the 1953 20th Century Fox released, but also slapped together to rush into theaters ahead of War of the Worlds 50s classic. Jim, what are your thoughts on Invaders from Mars?
I liked it a lot. And I liked how fast-paced it was. It was comparable to like those early Universal monster movies in the sense that the story starts and just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling along until it ends. You know?
About 80 minutes, 85 minutes, something like that. It's pretty short.
Yeah, it's good. I like the characters. I like the storyline.
Kid's great.
The kid's great. And even like the dad is great as he's overacting as this mean asshole.
The dad basically has two scenes. He has the scene where he's tender and loving with his child and they share in stargazing together and it's cute. And then he has a scene where he beats his child and it's great. Like the contrast there. And again, I think it's exaggerated, but it's perfect. And you do not expect to see that kind of husband in a 50s movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's kind of neat.
If I had one negative thing to say about it, because honestly, I don't really have any negative things to say, except for one, and it's that there's too many fucking characters, and so many of them are just kind of like filler characters that are either useless or on screen for a total of like 3.5 minutes in this extremely fast-paced movie.
I'll raise you a complaint.
Okay. That
starts at the moment I'm talking about. This movie goes downhill. This movie goes downhill the second they call the military.
I see what you're saying.
That first half, that first 2/3, however long it was, building up through the exposition scene at the observatory, the scenes with the kid in jail, where the girl's burning down the house, the scenes of mystery regarding the father, those scenes are all really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we get a shit ton of characters. That's when we get the military. The tunnel stuff, the climax stuff I didn't love.
Yeah.
I remember watching this movie years ago on Turner Classic Movies, just kind of throwing it on. There was like a 50s sci-fi double feature, and I kind of threw this on. This is probably the first time I'd seen it. I'm watching this, and I'm only like half watching it. I'm talking to my parents at the time, and I remember being intrigued by how it started out. And, you know, the kid, the stargazing kid sees a UFO. That's like a great way to start a movie. You establish that fence as this like iconic image. People start disappearing. We've got a body snatchers thing going. And then it becomes a mediocre monster movie where we're running around in tunnels with guys in bad alien suits, and it gets ridiculous. And I remember my dad looking at that and going like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, the first part was amazing. I don't know why it ended up like this.
It did kind of devolve into...
It does.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with it because maybe it's just because I kind of expected it.
It's a different kind of entertainment.
Yeah.
It's schlocky entertainment. There's a little bit of schlocky stuff early just because it's like the 50s, it's so dated, but like that first half or so was like intelligently done. And then it kind of just becomes generic. It's just people running around.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's so much just confusion and stuff happening with the military. It's not that it's hard to follow. It's just like, there's just so many things happening, and it seems like the plot has just been thrown to the wayside just to have people doing things on screen. Like running around in tunnels for 15 minutes, looking for a kid / looking for a way into the spaceship. Yeah, I totally understand that.
Do you agree with me, too, with the alien reveal?
Oh, yeah, they're retarded.
Oh, man. I mean, there's a reason those guys are off screen most of the movie.
Yeah.
But then they're on screen for way too much when we actually see them. And the ringleader's cool. The ringleader's awesome. I like when they're carrying them around. That stuff's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they couldn't have come up with like something better.
It's got to be budget.
It's
got to be budget. These guys reminded me quite a bit of the Morlocks, I think they're called, in the 1960 Time Machine movie, where that's a movie that's pretty good. Those things kind of suck, although it's really awesome. There's a scene where they start like a dozen of them on fire, and it's so funny because they have these like, the ones that are on fire are just like curiously like 3 times as fat as the others. It's like, it's very obvious they're wearing some kind of like fire retardant suit or something. This movie goes downhill even before the aliens are finally revealed. I think this movie goes downhill once the plot machinations are fully in place. I think the setup is so much more satisfying than all the stuff. Although I do like the homegrown alien terrorist angle, the brainwashed kind of surgically implanted terrorist creation. Like, I think there's some fun stuff in there with the general running around trying to bomb his own military base. That stuff's kind of neat.
Yeah, and if I had to pick a spot in the movie exactly where it does kind of take a bit of a nosedive, it's after David's parents have been captured by the military, and it's, I guess, right around the time that they get into the tunnels and David gets captured.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that's a more dramatic step off. I do think there's a step off after that exposition scene in the observatory. I think it does kind of go downhill after that. But yeah, it's more dramatic later, even.
I totally agree with you. I mean, it just didn't bother me as much because I sat down fully expecting a pretty schlocky movie, and the first half of it was surprisingly refreshing and interesting.
First half is honestly kind of great.
Yeah, it
the
really
creepy
is.
Girl setting her house on fire, that's awesome.
And you know what? And
that should happen in every movie.
Yeah.
Well, let a creepy girl burn down someone's house in When Harry Met Sally. Like, that should be in every movie.
I agree. But then also the 50s, idyllic small town setting is a great...
That always wins. Yeah. That's always appealing.
And even the sets...
And you and I are both white, it should be noted, because I'm sure people of color don't have the same nostalgic 50s suburban Americana, but that to me is always entertaining to watch.
Well, and then even the sets in this movie, like the main set of the dumb fence... it looks nice. It's a good looking.
It looks great.
Set. You got the tree. You got the smattering of trees. The fence. It all looks.
I do
great.
think we could have gotten a second angle at one point. Though it does get a little exhausting, but it's even the same angle when the telescope pulls up on it.
That's exactly it.
Also, if you're the military, someone at the military base noticed that the telescope is just looking at them, right? At one point.
They would. But it's the 50s. Too many people are busy drinking on the job and taking smoke breaks.
I do like, too, the idea of this. It's kind of revealed over time. It's not established at the beginning, but the reveal of this as being kind of like a company town, and the company is this military base. Like, that's not really established in the
company
beginning.
is the government.
Learn that later on. Yeah, and I think that's kind of interesting. And if this movie were made later, and again, I know this was remade, but they could have maybe made the military even kind of seedier. Even kind of sketchier. They could have gone like a Stranger Things type government lab.
If it had been the 70s or 80s, that's exactly how it would have gone.
I think you're right. And again, this was remade in the 80s. I want to say the 80s Tobe Hooper film stayed pretty true to the original. I want to say they greatly improved the aliens at the end when you get to them. But I want to say that was overall a fairly faithful remake.
It was a good movie, though. I enjoyed it.
It's good. It's not great. But is it better than the Ipcress File? Jim, between the Ipcress File and Invaders from Mars, which do you prefer?
I mean, it's not even a question. It's the Ipcress File.
Whoa! You just spoke pretty highly of Invaders from Mars. I think it is a question based on how you were talking about it, for sure. Did you love the Ipcress File?
Don't lambast me over this.
I'm not lambasting you. I'm surprised by this response. I'm not surprised by the substance. I'm surprised by the tone.
I think in terms of types of movies, I like spy thrillers more than 50s sci-fi. But, I mean, how can you beat Michael Caine in a spy movie that's set during the Cold War? You know what I mean? Like, that's also in London, where Michael Caine is so fucking cool.
Makes good use of London locations, too. A little bit of Whitehall, the Royal Albert Hall, obviously. We mentioned that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think Invaders from Mars is again, I really enjoyed it, but I mean, it's no Michael. I mean, David's no Michael Caine, and it's no Ipcress File.
I gotta be honest. It sounds like you liked both of these movies a bit more than I did. I think Invaders from Mars is good. I enjoy it. I don't love it. I don't love the Ipcress File either, but I will take the Ipcress File over this. Ipcress File is a bit of a slow movie, but it is very rewarding. And for me, a little bit of that feel, a little bit of that Cold War espionage, paranoia kind of thing was pretty good. But honestly, mostly it's the Michael Caine performance. A little bit of the filmmaking, too. Mm-hmm. Honestly, a lot of the filmmaking. I enjoyed the Dutch angles. I enjoyed the music by John Barry. I love the look of Michael Caine, the 60s fashion, that stuff.
Yeah, it's also good.
I mentioned 50s suburban Americana is always appealing. 60s British fashion same thing. It will always win. So yeah, I am taking... I would watch both these films again, but I am taking Ipcress File. I listed that kind of run that Michael Caine had from the mid-'60s to the early 70s. I think the Ipcress File is on the weaker end of those movies, at least of the one. I only named the ones that I've seen. I don't think it's as good as The Italian Job, certainly not as good as Get Carter.
No.
Or Zulu, or Alfie's probably the best of them. But
no, and I agree with you, but it's still really good, stand-up
though.
Movie.
Yeah. I just love seeing Caine in that role. I love the character. Mm-hmm. Love the working class, hates his life kind of James Bond. Caine's the perfect actor at the perfect time for that role. You know, that's the perfect point in his career to play that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Jim, as a double feature, how do you think this works? The Ipcress File into Invaders from Mars.
You know, I'm actually, I was thinking about this, and I was kind of torn, because I like both of these movies.
There's a correct answer here. Would go on.
Well, if I had to guess what you would say, it would be no. That they don't work as a double feature.
Is it both movies about brainwashing? How often does that come up in our podcast? This is a perfect double feature. Are you shitting me? Come on!
I thought you were just going to talk about the slowness and the...
No.
Well, because I was going to say...
I'm okay with your first movie can be slow. You don't want your second movie to be slow, and Invaders from Mars is not slow.
No, exactly, and that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, ultimately, I came to the conclusion that it was going to be a good double feature. The brainwashing thing really kind of clinches it, but
oh man, yeah.
But you do have that transition from this kind of slow plotting spy thriller to this very fast paced sci-fi 50s movie or 50s sci-fi movie that is kind of goofy, but it's enjoyable to watch.
It's goofy because it's dated, you know.
Yes, yeah, that's the only reason, really.
Both films kind of capture this paranoia. Again, which we associate with the Cold War. Invaders from Mars, any 50s sci-fi movie is going to get some kind of Cold War comparisons. This is pretty politically muted as far as those movies go. But it's this paranoia of not knowing who you can trust. And Michael Caine versus Jimmy Hunt as David, I agree, they're not on the same caliber of actors, even though I do think that's a pretty good kid actor. But I like they're almost in this similar situation, and Caine handles it with more class because he's mature, he's trained, he's a spy, he's ex-military, all this stuff. But I really like that aspect of this double feature. I think these are both good movies too, which obviously doesn't hurt. We don't always cover two good movies.
Yeah.
We don't always cover one good movie, to be perfectly honest.
I do like how...
I think it's a good double feature.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm glad you agreed, because for some reason I thought you were going to say no, but silly me.
No, what the hell are you...
I do like how the second movie has literally tanks firing at a spaceship, and the Ipcress File is like anti-action. You know, is almost the opposite of action, I guess. What would you call it? What's the opposite of action? Stillness? I don't know.
I was going to say Ridley Scott's Alien.
Got him.
Yeah. Anyways, here's what we're doing next time, or maybe it's not both of us.
Whoa.
It's just me and a new guest, but we are doing the original Transformers from 2007, and a film near and dear to my heart, myself being an educator at an inner city school. We are doing Class of 1984, the exploitation high school films to end all exploitation high school films. It's a truly incredible experience.
I think that's going to be a perfect double feature.
I still don't really know what it is, to be honest, but it's entertaining as hell. So Transformers and Class of 1984. I'm going to be joined by an old friend of mine named Vincent, who is a Michael Bay Transformers apologist. He really vouches for those movies, or at least some of them. So I wanted to have him on there. I wanted to hear his take.
Well, I'll tell you, in his defense, the first one's the best one.
I think he would probably agree with that. I think everyone agrees with that. But yeah, I've seen a handful of them. First one I didn't mind. I don't particularly love it or anything.
Before we go, I just want to say, I want to give my opinion. I want to give my favorite scene from the first Transformers movie, because I'm not going to be on that episode. It's when all the soldiers are in the desert and there's a scorpion transformer. Then they all start running away in slow-mo, and you see the scorpion transformer come out of the sand.
I know the shot.
Oh, because I think it might have been in a trailer, but it's like the coolest fucking thing on the planet. That whole scene where they're in the desert is great.
A good friend of mine, her husband is ex-military, and she told me he's an extra in Transformers. But then when I spoke to him, I found out he's an extra in Transformers 2.
Oh.
So unfortunately, I won't be able to spot him in here. But yeah, he was like over in the Middle East when they were shooting it. Michael Bay, for whatever reason, has like a great relationship with the military. Like the U.S. military will just like, I don't know, I guess he pays his taxes or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm excited for that double feature. And Jim, we'll have you back soon enough.
Okie dokie, artichoke. Have fun with Vincent.
All right. Take care, my friend.